Hi everyone, I'm Laura. I'm the CEO of VMV Hypoallergenics. We're here to save the world's skin with the safest, most proven effective care on the planet. And today I will be talking to you about hypoallergenic formulations just a little bit because there's a lot to talk about. But just to sort of break down why they're weird, some stuff that makes them um, look different, smell different than, say, traditional cosmetics, and why that's actually a really good thing for people with complex skin conditions. What you'll typically find in fairly traditional cosmetics, high quality, wonderful products, are preservatives, quite a few, and or quite strong ones, or fragrance and or dyes. These three in particular go a long way towards helping the product stay more the same, looking the same, pouring out the same, etc., for a far longer amount of time. Because remember that cosmetics, when they're made, have to survive, say, the production process, sitting in finished goods for a little bit, and then making it, let's say, to a shipping container where transit time can be a month or longer, and in conditions that are either really, really, really hot or really, really, really cold. And then when they get to their destination, especially now with the supply chain crisis and port congestions and whatever, they can sit at port and baking in the sun or again exposed to extreme cold for a really long time, weeks and weeks at a time. And then they have to go to warehouses, potentially multiple warehouses, where again they might sit for a long time, and then to a store if they're going to a brick and mortar store, where again they have to sit for a long time. So a lot of these ingredients really help the product stay the same for as long as possible, right? Typical preservatives you might see: parabens, certainly formaldehyde releasing preservatives, a lot of different preservatives, right? And often more than one in a formulation is what you would see. And then fragrance, fragrance mix, sometimes things that aren't labeled fragrance but that are fragrance, benzyl alcohol, cinnamic alcohol, and then dyes. So preservatives I sort of talked about, and that's really to preserve the product for that long. Fragrance is interesting because what really these things are trying to do is minimize or prevent organoleptic changes. Organoleptic basically means any change in characteristics like smell or feel or separation or color. So preservatives would help with that. Fragrance certainly helps with the smell part. It'll mask the inherent smell of a product. If your product doesn't smell like anything, it probably has masking fragrances in there. If it smells like a lab, it probably has zero fragrance in there. But so a fragrance can help mask organoleptic changes in smell over time. But also many fragrances double as preservatives. So a product can actually claim preservative-free because it might be loaded with fragrances that provide preservation as well. And then dyes, of course, help with regards to masking the color. A lot of these organoleptic changes, by the way, that happen don't necessarily mean that the product has gone bad or is rotting. It's just exposure to stuff. So many times if there's a bit of separation, shaking it well, totally fine. It's like leaving a photo or like, I don't know, some of our cushions outside. Over time, they fade because of exposure to light, right? So this is sort of how some of the ways that traditional cosmetics are formulated so that they stay as consistent over and over and over again, batch after batch after batch, month after month after month in storage, etc. So for VMV Hypoallergenics products, we obviously, for the most part, unless there is a VH lower than, say, 109, which you can tell on our products, this is the VH rating system right there, we don't use parabens or preservatives. We don't use fragrance, definitely nothing in all of our products, no masking fragrances either, and no dyes, certainly in our skincare for sure, and a lot of our makeup products don't use traditional dyes either. What does this mean? This means that unlike traditional cosmetics, we're going to have more variance in our products to begin with. So like some of our most popular shampoos, right, and body washes might have a wider range of acceptability from like, I don't know, Clark wash or superwash, which might go from a semi-opaque, semi-transparent, yellowish kind of color to a thicker, more milky white. Um, and we kind of have to allow for a wider range of variance because we don't have all these other things to keep it looking more pristine. The way I like to sort of describe it to people is it's like going to a grocery store and seeing like spotty organic bananas that aren't GMO versus really pristine, beautiful, spotless bananas. To make them that spotless, apples, bananas, etc., you do need a lot more stuff, fertilizers or other things to make them look really amazing for longer, so they again survive shipment and stuff like that, or they're GMO or whatever, or the store rejects imperfections, right? Versus something that is really less interfered with with chemicals and stuff to keep it looking so picture perfect all the time. Those things might look less perfect, right? So that's kind of sort of how it works with truly hypoallergenic products that use less ingredients meant to make it look pristine and picture perfect for longer. That said, we do have to provide a certain level of stability, obviously, so that our products can make it to other countries and to people's homes in a good state. And so while we don't use traditional preservatives, we do have a self-preserving system. It is a proprietary system that makes use of coconut-derived monolaurin and virgin coconut oil. And I could put a link in the description to a nice review my mom, who's our founding dermatopathologist, made about how long these substances have been used as broad-spectrum antimicrobials, but without interfering our microbiota and being hypoallergenic, very skin safe. In fact, having additional benefits for our skin, such as keeping our microbiome balanced, not interfering with that. They're lipids, so they're actually moisturizing. They're anti-inflammatory. They've got all these other great things. But so that's kind of a little bit of why, say, traditional cosmetics do use preservatives and fragrance and dyes and things like that. It's not for some nefarious reason. It's so that they last longer, more pristine looking, in really harsh conditions. It's also why our products that don't use those things can sometimes look a little different, a little more different than maybe you're used to from batch to batch to batch to batch. We won't release anything that hasn't been thoroughly tested for microbial contamination, formulation integrity, safety, and efficacy. So if we release something that looks a little slightly different, we'll disclose it usually. We have a program called Function First that sort of explains that, so you have an option to get it or wait for the next batch. Or we'll release it because we'll just have a wider variance, but definitely nothing will be released unless it is absolutely tested for safety and to provide the function that the formulation is meant to provide. We tend to do more tests even than traditional cosmetics because we don't use those typical ingredients. So we do actually have to test for more stuff to make sure it's stable. Our retention samples are kept longer, etc. And one final thing, we do manufacture our own product. That's not all that common. A lot of brands outsource their manufacturing to one or several production companies. And that is not a bad thing. In fact, business-wise, there's definitely some logic that's sound to that. But we don't do it because we need to maintain real particular control over the product. So, for example, we would not manufacture, we wouldn't mix a product that has fragrance because fragrance is also really sticky. It stays around a while, very hard to clean away. And a lot of cleaning stuff is allergenic. So we won't mix something with fragrance in the same vat that we would mix VMV products in. This is important to state because we manufacture our own stuff. We can tell you with far more precision, far more directly what's really in there, that we can confirm that the ingredient is the same, that the MSDS, the material specifications for that raw material, have passed our standards. Other brands might not be able to get you that information or as directly, in part because, let's say, they outsource, so they wouldn't necessarily know. And depending what company they use to outsource, that production company may not know that quickly either, or that directly, because some places are just manufacturers. They don't necessarily have an R&D in-house, and they will accept the raw materials and the packaging and test for very basic quality and then produce, but not necessarily have all that information the way that we do. So that's a little bit about why, say, traditional cosmetics will tend to use things that get bad press a lot, like, preservatives and fragrance and dyes like that. It's not all bad. There's an important function to that. It's also the same reason why for a truly hypoallergenic product, like we really strive to be, that aims to remove all 109 out of 109 published contact allergens, our products will have more variants. And we really strongly suggest, store in a cool, dark place away from sunlight, precisely because ours will tend to show those organoleptic changes faster. Other related videos you might find interesting, my mom and I did a live stream to explain some terms in cosmetics, natural, hypoallergenic, organic, so I'll put the link to that there. And then expiration and why it doesn't really happen in cosmetics, but stuff to look out for to use your products safely for longer. I hope you found that helpful. Please let me know in the comments if there's anything that you want to know more about, and certainly if you have any questions, you can find us on social media. You can send us, especially for longer questions that require a lot of back and forth on, and this is also where you can shop our products, VMVHypoallergenics.com in the US and internationally, and VMVHypoallergenics.ph in the Philippines. Stay safe and be well. See you next time.